All right, welcome back to the Krueger Show on YouTube, and hope everybody's enjoying the shows. And today we are talking about, man, if we could throw a little Tom Petty free falling in the background for the Warriors, we would, because the free falling Warriors, who just went 1-4 on the road trip, and I believe the Warriors scored fewer points in the second quarter than, or basically they played terrible tonight. They just played horrendous ball, and they fell behind. And there was no Steph, no Klay, no Wiseman, no Otto Porter. We did get to see Andre Iguodala, but the Warriors fell tonight in Memphis to wrap up the road trip. And with us on the show tonight is Jannelle Moore, who's covering the Warriors for the San Jose Mercury News. Bud Geraci and the folks, the Mercury News, have hired Jannelle Moore, and Janelle is covering the Warriors this year, and she is with us on the Krueger Show to talk a little hoop. Hey, Jannelle, how are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing great. Well, before we get going and talking about this, obviously the struggle of a game for the Warriors, give me your thoughts on yourself. Give the audience an idea of your background and where you're from and how you started working for the Merc.
Well, I am a native of Marion, North Carolina. It is about 30 minutes from Asheville, and I am a analyst for the Mercury. They have another beat writer. I'm just the analyst. I cover about a few Warrior games and give my breakdown on them and some features, and that's about all I do for the Mercury. And I also write for basketball news for other teams in the league, of course, and I write for Carolina Blitz as well. I write about the Panthers for them.
Nice. So you're a little NFL, little NBA. Well, why don't we, the Panthers are rumored to be after Jimmy Garoppolo. Well, what do you think? Is Carolina gonna pull the trigger and make a trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, or is that all just talk?
I think it's all just talk because, they're kind of caught up into or entangled with Darnold. They guaranteed that money for him, so there's not really much they can do.
Well, let's get into the Warriors tonight because Memphis is one of the best teams in the league. It's just as simple as that. And tonight they didn't even have Ja Morant, and yet they've beaten the Warriors 3 out of 4 times this year. And man, when you look at Memphis, I believe they lead the league in rebounding. They lead the league in offensive rebounding. I think they're leading the league in shot blocks. They lead the league in steals. This is a really good basketball team, and I don't know that everybody in the around the country really understand what the Grizzlies are as we turn towards the NBA playoffs. But Jannelle, they're going to find out soon, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Memphis is a great team, even without Ja Morant. I think they're like 18-2 right now. After tonight.
Yeah.
And that is because of well developed. The front office have drafted well. The front office have developed well, and this is a young team that's not afraid, and a young team that's unbothered by the moment, and that's what's going to make them really dangerous in the playoffs. I mean, it's good to be aware of the moment, but if you're unbothered and unfazed, you don't get too high or get too low in the moment, and you're even keel, that's when you're dangerous.
Well, they are dangerous right now. You mentioned that they're a young team. They're not just a young team; they're the NBA's youngest team. I didn't even realize that. I heard Fitz say that on the broadcast tonight. But man, the Warriors allowed more points in the second quarter tonight than they scored in the first half. Jordan Poole wound up with 25. Moody had 18. The rookie from Arkansas, the rookie Jonathan Kuminga had 15 points and 7 rebounds. But Warriors are minus 12 in the glass, minus 15 on the break, 17 turnovers. Golden State now 3-9 without Steph Curry. But what do you make of Golden State? 48-28 through 76 games. They're talking about it on the TV postgame show. There's an awful lot, Jannelle, it was amazing on Christmas when I watched the Warriors roll into Phoenix and really come away with a very impressive win against the Suns. I thought, man, the Warriors they don't even have Klay. They don't have Wiseman. They're going to get those guys back, and they're going to be the best team in basketball going into the playoffs. Except Wiseman never came back, and when Klay came back, defensively, he's not quite the player that he was. And Steph Curry, kind of got hot at the beginning of the year, looked like an MVP candidate, but he's kind of regressed and had one of his worst career years in a long time. So now and Draymond Green mixing him as well. He had the back problem, and I've had back surgery. Disc issues are no laughing matter. So now there's a lot of question marks suddenly, and the playoffs are only 6 games away. And I'll throw to you the question that I think all Warrior fans are asking right now. Can the Warriors get it going in time to make a run in these NBA playoffs at the title? Or is it really, are they going to be one and done and it's on to rebuilding for next year?
Well, they can get it together. But, what people have to realize is that they're injured. A lot of injuries have messed them up just about all year.
Yeah.
If it's not Klay, it's Draymond. If it's not Draymond, it's Steph. And right now, Steph being injured is at a really, really bad time. Really unfortunate. And with Steph, he covers up a lot of things, especially on offense. I think it was like a few years ago. I think Coach Kerrs said that, players like Iguodala, Draymond, and I believe Klay, if I'm not mistaken, said that they were Steph's security blanket. Well, Steph is the security blanket of this team, obviously, because it's looking mad cold without him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. No,
he fixes a lot of things on offense, and even during his slump, he was out there playmaking. He was in the Draymond Green role, trying to get everybody involved, making sure everybody eats. But one thing that Steph sometimes forget to do, and he's so selfless, and that's his biggest flaw. Sometimes he forget to eat, and during that stretch with Draymond out, he kind of forgot to score and to get himself going too. And as far as the slump is concerned, that could be attributed to his rotation patterns. I mean, he's used to 12 minutes in the first, and 12 minutes in the third, and 6 in the second and the fourth, and he's been at that rotation for years, and to break it that kind of affects his rhythm. And another thing that affects his rhythm is, sometimes, during the record chase, he was hunting for threes, and, his shot selection wasn't where it needed to be. But, with these injuries, and just so you know, the core of Green and Curry and Thompson have played only 11 minutes in 2 years.
Wow. Think about that.
11
I mean,
minutes.
that's unbelievable, really. That's an unbelievable stat, because we all kind of thought that we were going to get to see, Kuminga and Moody and these young Wiseman Poole added to their existing core. But you just laid it out right there. The existing core has not been able to be healthy enough. And so really what we've got is we've got 2 teams. We've got the older team that's having a hard time getting on the floor. And then these young kids who, obviously are getting minutes that are valuable, but we haven't gotten to see the team gel as a team because they haven't been healthy. And now, so we really don't know what they are going into the playoffs.
Right. And you have fluctuating lineups because of all the injuries. And I think with the injuries is why Curry's rotation pattern got messed up. And about the core, each one of them are out, have missed time. And sometimes you could take these guys for granted. With Klay out, you're missing spacing for Steph to operate, spacing for Green out. You got You're missing his playmaking. Steph is missing, you know, how he relocates. Draymond just knows instantly how to look for him. You're missing that, and you're missing his defense and his hustle. And what Steph missing, you're missing his scoring. You're missing how he sets up shots for others off the ball and on the ball. So
It's a lot. They're missing a lot.
They're missing a lot.
Yeah.
And with each of them missing some time, you tend to take them for granted, and you don't know what you got until it's not there anymore.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point. The guy that I think they miss the most, or the aspect of with obviously they miss all these guys, but what they really miss, if you think about the way they played in the first part of the year, is they miss Green playing off of Curry, because when Green plays off of Curry, he's one of the NBA's best point guards, and I know he's a 6'8" power forward, but in reality, he's a point guard on this team, and they miss without him out there. Steph's got to work harder for shots. Yeah. He's got to initiate the offense, and he's got to expend more energy, than he normally would. So they miss him. They miss him a lot, and he plus, as well.
And plus, you also have to realize that Steph is out there playing with the younger guys that don't really know where to look for him when he relocates. And that's what Green brings. And Green is valuable, more dynamic when he looks to score. You remember when at the 2016 season, he scored like at least, I want to say about 14 points per game or something like that.
That's when he was shooting 38% from three back then.
Yes, 38% from three back then.
And that 3-point shot has gone down for Green in recent years.
And I think the reason behind that is because, when KD came, Green probably felt like he didn't have to do that anymore. But now that he's gone, I guess Green has gotten that mode of, I'm still not looking to score. I'm kind of used to it now. So I'll just playmaking, facilitate, and impact the game that way, offensively and defensively. Just do what I do.
Let's talk about Green for a second, because I think Green's interesting. He is one of my favorite players. I've been an advocate for years that the Warriors would have won 0 titles without Draymond Green. So nobody has a greater love for Draymond's game and a greater appreciation for his value than I do. But I kind of think that now they're in a spot where when they get to this summer, and we'll see, and this is going to be heresy to say this, but, it might be time to move off of Green. It might be time, I think the Pistons, who have, they've got a lottery pick. If the Pistons would give you that top 5 pick, if I'm the Warriors, I'm listening. Why? Because, TNT's not that far off. Back issues don't get better. And I just think that we've seen his best basketball. And now there are some other guys like Kuminga who can play the small ball 5 that Green plays. He's not Draymond, and Draymond is still very valuable. But I think you could, if you're the Warriors and you're looking at your future, I was looking at a mock draft today, Janelle, that had Paolo Banchero of Duke going 3rd overall to the Pistons. Somehow if you're Golden State, you get into that offseason, and the Pistons, who probably don't draw all that well, would love to have a hometown kid come home in Draymond Green, and they would offer you that pick. Most years I'd say, you know what, not interested, not listening, not taking that phone call. If I'm Bob Myers, I'm taking that phone call, and if they offer that pick, I'm making that trade, because I just think that we're now at a point where Draymond's best ball is in his rearview mirror, and he still is a really, really good player, but he's not the player that he was. And I think that if they could get a lottery pick and a franchise-altering player for him, I think now's the time to do it. Give me your thought on that, because I know there's a lot of people who would be like, "Oh man, that's a hard bridge to cross for a lot of Warrior fans because of what he's meant to this team and what he's meant to this market and how popular he is in that room with those players. But I think the timing is this summer for Myers to trade him. How do you see Green's tenure here?
I see Green's tenure here. That scenario that you proposed, I would at least take a listen, and that depends on the leap that Kuminga has.
In these playoffs to come, you mean?
And it's playoffs to come, and even during next season. Because Kuminga has the potential, but he with young players, you just don't know, and you could just leverage on potential, but potential really means you ain't doing nothing now.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? I sound
or
like
you haven't done it yet. Yeah,
you haven't done it yet. So,
I hear you.
If Kuminga makes a Poole-like leap, then I would entertain something like that. But until then, Kuminga have showed.
You want to see more from Kuminga before this?
Yes, levers of potential in garbage time.
I hear you.
You know what I mean?
Let me ask you about Andre Iguodala. I think Iguodala said something today that really caught my eye. By the way, Andre Iguodala, for Warrior fans, he's back, right? He was back in there today, and that was great to see. Andre Iguodala, and this is a quote. Let me see if I have it here from Iguodala. Basically, Iguodala is not a fan. So the Warriors this year, Jannelle, try to do both, right? They tried to bring their old crew back and then not trade for Bradley Beal, not trade James Wiseman for somebody that could help them this year. They wanted to be good long-term, partially, I think, because of how expensive it is to go to the Chase Center, I think they want to make sure they're competitive into the future, and I don't fault them for that. So they have this almost like two teams. They got a veteran team, and then they got a young team, and I don't have a problem with that. To me, that's smart business on the part of Joe Lacob, because you don't want to put all your eggs in this basket with Steph and Klay and Draymond, because you may not get to the title, and then 2 years from now you may have a massive rebuild like the Lakers are staring at right now. I'm okay with bringing the young core along piece by piece so you can have a greater amount of success stretched out over a longer period of time. Andre Iguodala, though, Jannelle, does not agree. He told a writer today that he says it's just, it's kind of, he's talking about how the Warriors built their roster. He says it kind of disrespects the former era. This is a quote that he told the Athletic's Anthony Slater earlier today. He says, but I also don't think you're giving the new era the opportunity to grow and be kids, throwing that all on them, and it's not deserving. It's just my perspective. I could be wrong. But what he's basically saying is they shouldn't have gone. They should have. He's saying that Myers and the Warrior front office disrespected Steph and Klay and Draymond by not maximizing their ability to win titles, by surrounding them with a veteran key player or two to get them over the hump this year or maybe next year to win another title with the old group. The Warriors opted to go with, younger players and potentially, take a shot at winning a title this year, but not loading up this year and kind of hedging their bet into the future. What do you think? Is Andre onto something? Did the Myers and the Warrior front office, Joe Lacob and the guys who run this team, did they disrespect their veteran core by going with the young players instead of trading those assets for veterans who could win now?
I think Andre is onto something, because Steph has showed us last year that he's still one of those dudes in terms of scoring, and just to give him a shot and give that core a shot to win a title, win one more time. That's what he means, And as far as the younger players go, and with that, a lot of fans from, regardless of fan base, we tend to want everything instant, and it's not fair to them. A lot of players go through this, what I call the process of progression. And a lot of times it's not instantaneous. Sometimes it's slow, but in the long run, it's worth it in the end. And for Poole and Wiseman, and especially Wiseman, and these players, Moody and whatnot, they don't really have that opportunity. They're kind of thrown in the fire. Some people are responding well, like Poole, and the reason why he's responding well because he went down to Santa Cruz last year and it clicked for him. As a matter of fact, I'm doing a story about the Santa Cruz to Golden State pipeline. That's a feature that will be coming up real soon.
Nice.
Okay, shameless plug. And Moody, he went to college. He stayed in college, and he has this maturity to him, so that helps him. But Wiseman, his situation is just, I want to say, unprecedented. Well,
he's hurt. He had a surgery. He's got a meniscus. He had a meniscus tear. Then they did, I believe, a scope. And so that wasn't very invasive. It doesn't sound like, but nonetheless, he's having swelling and he's having pain, and they shut him down for the year. And now he didn't play. He played last year, but he didn't play at all this year. And his future is very much, a question mark. So it's unfortunate. I don't like the comparing injuries thing either. We're talking about people and bodies and, and we're talking about different people and different injuries. A lot of people have already compared James Wiseman to Greg Oden, but Greg Oden had a microfracture surgery in the knee and just never could get over the tendonitis and the pain that came along with it. This is a meniscus injury that, theoretically should not be as serious as a microfracture. So that all being said, we don't really have anything other than hope that Wiseman will be, will get ready in the future. And I'll say this. I think he's a slam dunk prospect, 7'1", athletic, smart, very mature kid, speaks multiple languages, understands exactly what the coaching staff wants from him, understands exactly how he can contribute to this team as opposed to, what he did as a rookie where he shot threes and he had demonstrated more perimeter skills. So I don't have any real questions about him other than the health of that knee. And unfortunately, that's the big one. And we're not going to get a chance to see the show.
His not only his health, but remember I said that his situation is kind of unorthodox and unprecedented because he only played 3 college games.
Right.
And even when he was drafted, he had issues with COVID, and along with the injury. So his learning curve was stifled a bit. And also remember, it takes big men longer to develop than wings and guards, especially during this modern era to where, you really don't know or can get a feel on what is a big man during this era.
Well,
what do they want as a big man? So you got to take all of that in consideration as well.
Yeah.
So his process of progression is going to be really slow.
Well, I don't know. It's already been incredibly slow.
It's going to be slower than that too.
Yeah, it's going to be slower. Let's talk a little playoffs before we say goodbye. What do you think of the Warriors? First of all, Warriors right now, if the season ended today, now the Warriors are in danger, Janelle, as you know, of not being the 4 seed. But if the season ended today, they would be, or not be the 3rd seed, I should say. They could fall down to 4. Right now, that in the 3-6 matchup, they would get the Denver Nuggets and Nikola Jokic in round 1. How do you envision that series would go?
I envision that series, as crazy as it may sound, if they get Steph back in the first round and Draymond gets back to where he was, he still has to round into form. And depending on what Kerr does with Poole and that lineup, I like the Warriors' chances. I mean, even in the
Oh,
regular,
that's a lot. That's a lot of ifs, though, right? Because we only have six
it's
games
a lot of
left.
ifs, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, if they had 15 games left, it would be one thing. The fact they only have 6 games left, wow. I mean, it's like, how is this whole thing going to come together? And also, the Warriors losing Wiseman. What they were really banking on Wiseman, so much so that they didn't acquire a big
And
player at
that
the
was
trade
crazy
deadline.
to me. And that was crazy to me because they know good and well that boy is not ready. He is not ready. They know good and well he's missed more time than not. So he wasn't going to be a factor in the playoffs anyway. And for them to not at least get a competent big, that was a mistake right there. But then again, on the other hand, Draymond and Looney, and they play their best being a small ball. But see, and that's why they didn't get a big, because they're more effective as a small ball team. But playing so much small ball is that's why Draymond's back is jacked up.
Well,
That's
yeah, I mean, he
oh.
battles bigger guys every night. There's no question about that.
And Looney,
Um,
he's been healthy for
he's
most of
played
the
well at
season
times.
and played well, but how long is that sustainable? Because I
Yeah,
don't
they don't have size. I mean, that's the thing. And then they get Jokic in the first round. I think there's a very good chance they go one and done and check out. I can't believe I'm saying that, because on Christmas I was pretty convinced they were an NBA Finals lock.
But see, everybody
Um,
was healthy during Christmas Day except for Klay.
yeah,
But
yeah, and
that's
they
it.
didn't get Wiseman back. They were leaning on Wiseman. See, they didn't make a trade at the deadline because they were leaning on Wiseman. Then
Right.
you saw Bismack Biyombo go to the Suns. That,
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of ways, was the player that
That
could
they,
have given them some length and some athleticism, some size inside. And they passed on that player or didn't want to go in that direction. And then they didn't get Wiseman back. Once they didn't make a trade at the trade deadline, then it became, well, James Wiseman's got to not only return, but he's got to play some role, because this team needs his size. And then for him not to be able to come back after being out all year was a kick to the gut. And now, how's this thing going to come together? Now, let me ask you about some of these other matchups in the first round. Phoenix Clippers, is that going to be a series at all? The 1-8? Are the Clippers going to give, or will the Clippers push Phoenix? Now, first of all, we don't even know it'll be Clippers Phoenix, because the 9 and the 10 and the whole play-in thing.
yeah.
But if it is Clippers Phoenix, do the Clips get a game from the Suns in round one?
Yeah. I would say that at least a game.
One game or
One
two,
game. Maybe.
maybe two. Memphis, Minnesota, the 2-7. That's the 2-7 in the West if the season ended this second. Does Minnesota get a game off Memphis? The Memphis team we just watched tonight with Dylan Brooks back in there.
They might, but that's not likely. Memphis is too good, and they're on a roll right now. All the momentum is on their side, and once they get Ja back, I mean, I don't know. I don't even think they'll get a game.
Do you think the Warriors now with the loss tonight, in an ugly 1-4 road trip, they're only one game ahead of the Mavericks in the loss column. Dallas has already won the tiebreaker for the year. So, I mean, the Mavericks probably, are the favorite right now to be the 3 seed, and the Warriors are in danger of falling behind, maybe even beyond number 4. But what do you think as far as let's just say it was Dallas, Utah in the 4-5 matchup in the West in the first round? How do you see that series?
That's a toss up to me. I can't really get a feel for that one.
How about in the East? The hottest. The East is interesting too, Janelle, from the standpoint Boston, Miami, Milwaukee, Philly, Chicago, heck, Cleveland. You want to throw them in earlier this year? Then you got Brooklyn. If I said to you right now, who's coming out of the East? Who do you got?
The East is going to be a bloodbath. I mean, you know, Milwaukee you still got to put respect on them as the defending champs. But the way that Brooklyn looks, what they did to Miami, Kyrie is back, and they replaced Harris with Seth Curry. I don't think nobody want to see Brooklyn.
Brooklyn might not even make it. How about that? Brooklyn right now is the 9 seed. They're the 9 seed.
And they'll
make it.
They're gonna make the play.
We think, yeah. But are they? Yeah, and they're probably going to win the play-in, and I think they'll be in. Yeah, I agree. They'll win. They'll wind up being the 8th seed. Talk about a great first-round series. Boston, maybe the hottest team in the East, against Brooklyn. With Ben Simmons and KD. I mean, and Kyrie. No restrictions on Kyrie playing in New York. I think that series, if we got Boston, Brooklyn in round 1, who do you like there?
That's going to be a tough one. I mean,
yeah.
Of course, you got KD and you got Kyrie and their offense, but Boston's defense is solid. And that's gonna be a tough one. I think it's going to be like a 6-game series. And depending on defense on Brooklyn's end, I mean, it could go either way. And I wouldn't be surprised if Boston wins it because of their defense. And Brooklyn can't stop a nosebleed. I mean, I could see that going to Boston, but Brooklyn's offense though is potent. I mean,
no question. Yeah, he may be the most potent we've seen in a long, long time.
Yeah.
2 last questions before we finish up. One is, what did you think the other night during the Warrior Heat game when Jimmy Butler told basically Eric Spoelstra, he started talking down to Spoelstra, and then Udonis Haslem is like, "I'll kick your ass, man," and then all of a sudden the whole thing, got basically went from there. I mean, I was looking at that going, "This is the 1 seed in the East." Oh my God! I mean, do you put a line right through the Miami Heat because of the problems they're having, or do you look at that as just, long year? It got caught on TV. People made a big deal of it, but it's not a big deal. And the Heat will still be, a viable, contender in the Eastern Conference playoffs. How do you see that incident and how it impacts Miami?
The Heat is a hot ass mess. You know what I'm saying? And what really stood out to me about that incident, and it made me wonder, was this always in them, and them losing to the Stephless and Warriors in that fashion just brought it out to the surface? Is it something that they couldn't hide anymore as far as the friction goes?
Yeah.
And also, I mean, Jimmy's gonna Jimmy. You know what I mean? This is not new to him. Jimmy Butler isn't new to this. He's had issues in Chicago. He's had issues in Minnesota, and that's been well documented. And Philadelphia, I mean, he was a free agent and he wanted to go, but and that is what it is. But Jimmy got some, I guess he got some issues though, And as far as
he runs a little hot.
He runs a little bit too hot.
Yes.
He runs a little bit too hot, and it's detrimental to his teams.
D asks here, if you can see on the screen, says, please ask Janelle about Draymond Green's comments regarding LeBron James and the behavior of fans towards players.
Okay. I'll tackle the Draymond first. With Draymond and LeBron, you got to realize that Draymond wanted to be with Clutch as far as agency and representation goes, because he felt like his profile, his platform would be bigger, and it has been, and he would be with his friends.
Right.
His friend is Maverick, and Maverick has hooked up Draymond with the Turners and the investments and all of that, and that was a great business move. And
for those who don't know, Clutch also represents LeBron.
And Clutch is also is more sports centric than the others, than the CAAs of the world. So that business wise, that was a good look. But his comments about missing a game.
Draymond said, for those who don't know, that when LeBron passes Abdul-Jabbar for the scoring title, that even if the Warriors have a game that night, he won't be there. He'll be watching LeBron do his thing, which a lot of people were like, "What? What?" But him and LeBron, even though they're bitter rivals on the floor and battled in the finals, heck, LeBron teabagged Draymond and Draymond punched him, and then ultimately it wound up costing the Warriors, Draymond a suspension. And in my mind, that awarded Cleveland a title. LeBron's only title in Cleveland. I hated that call, but those guys have kissed and made up because they're both with Clutch, and now they're on the same side of things and they're buddies. And Draymond's gone as far as to say that he thinks LeBron's the greatest of all time, which, I think most people would say it's Michael Jordan and wouldn't question that. So, isn't it interesting how the relationship of Draymond Green and LeBron James has evolved through the years, Jannelle? It's gone from one end of the spectrum to the other. Now they're buddies.
Yeah, it is interesting. And, it just speaks to the way that the NBA is moving now. Everything is predicated on relationships. And on the court, they think that, on the court, you still have that competitiveness. You still have that going. But off the court, you can, move together and have businesses. And remember, and a lot of people don't know that Draymond said he still wanted to kick LeBron's ass.
Right.
Nobody really.
Who would win in a fight between Draymond and LeBron?
Draymond.
I think so too. Hey, let me get your perspective on what the entire country is talking about today. Do you know where I'm going?
The slap heard across the world.
Yes. What the heck was going on last night at the Oscars? Will Smith walks up and slapped Chris Rock. Who you siding with? Will Smith apologized, but
apologize for nothing.
Here's the thing. Let me give you my perspective, and then tell me. I don't want to be clouded by your perspective first. Let me give you mine first. I think if that's my wife, and you're ripping her and her hair, it's like, I got no choice. It's time to go. It's time to throw hands. I'm not saying that he was in the right, but you're attacking a guy's, woman right there in front of him. Jada's looking at Will like, you're going to let him do that. In some ways, I felt like he had no choice. He had to kind of defend her honor. But other people are saying, and then Chris Rock did not know that it was a health issue that caused her to not have hair. So that's a big part of it as well. I give him a little bit of a pass because he didn't know that. But give me your perspective and your read on what we all saw last night.
I mean, I want to really apologize for anything, to be honest, because Will was put in a spot to where he had to say something, had to do something, because at first he was laughing.
Right.
Jada at him, it's like, I know you ain't laughing.
Yeah, that ain't funny.
That ain't funny. I know you ain't gonna let him just do that. And he just went up there. And think about this. Yeah, it was him defending Jada, but a lot of it also had to do with defending himself too as well, because he has been subjects of many memes and jokes due to him airing out his personal business on the Red Talk.
Right.
With all the entanglements and the detanglements and whatever the case may be. all of that
Let's
stuff.
just say the complexity of their relationship.
Yes, and and it all came to head. It just came to the surface, and he smacked Chris Rock. And at first, I thought it was a skit because the way that Chris moved, I thought, is he selling this? Is this what we're doing now? But the more I looked on Twitter and all the replays, I'm like, oh, this is real. But kudos to Will for defending his wife. I mean,
exactly. And I'll say this: I think it was like the second lowest rated Oscars in history, and maybe I'm not saying it was. I don't think it was planned, but man, I think there'll be a few more people watching next year just because of that.
Yeah,
thinking they may see something like that. Jannelle, it was great to talk to you. Tell people you're covering the Warriors and an analyst for the San Jose Mercury News, and we'll be continuing to analyze their play right on through the regular season and into the playoffs. Tell people how they can get a hold of you if they want to check you out and see what you're saying about the Warriors.
Y'all can hit me up on my Twitter. That is Jannelle12 at JANNELLE and number 12. That's one of my jersey numbers back in the day.
Nice. Did you play ball? Would you play high school, college?
I played high school ball.
Nice.
I played high school ball, played AAU, all that. I still got my jumper too.
Do you?
Yeah.
You got a pretty smooth J?
Oh yeah. I still got that. I ain't got anything else.
There you go. Hey, Jannelle, thanks for coming on the Krueger Show, and we'll promise that you'll come back because we'd love to have you back and talk more Warriors. Tonight, regular season game without any of the stars. Not tons to talk about in this game. Let's be honest. This thing, it was the entire fourth quarter was garbage time, and this thing was really done once they went on like a 20-2 run. The Grizzlies did in that second quarter. So there wasn't a ton to really break down in this game, but we will have a lot more to break down in the playoffs, and there should be some incredible action starting right in the first round. So we appreciate you coming by tonight, and best of luck to you, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to you soon.
My pleasure. Whenever you want me, just hit me up. I'd love to come back on.
We'd love to.